Hi there, and welcome to the Food as Medicine show with Dr. Ann, the place to be for real talk with real people and real results so that you can heal yourself naturally. I'm your host, Dr. Ann, and I'm a board-certified pharmacist and health coach specializing in treating cholesterol without medications. You can learn more about me at drann.com, spelled A-N-H as in hiccup. I want to let you know that the opinions expressed on this show may not represent my opinions, and the show is for general information only, not a substitute for medical care. So prior to beginning any new health program, I recommend that you consult with a qualified health professional. In today's episode, I chat with Janie Schumann. She is a professional health coach, biofeedback specialist, and gluten-free consultant in the Northwest Arkansas area. Her health journey started when she was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and after finding her underlying stressors and fixing them, she now lives an active, healthy lifestyle, which is also pain-free. She works with groups or individuals who want to make positive lifestyle changes to reach their full potential using natural alternatives and food as medicine. Janie and I actually know each other because we went to the health coaching school together. In today's episode, Janie and I chat about the two most common dietary stressors that she sees in the people she coaches, what substitutes to use for your favorite foods to help restore your health, what a typical breakfast, lunch, and dinner might look like for her, how long it usually takes her clients to see results when implementing her dietary recommendations, and just a hint, it's not as long as you think. How to stick to your nutrition plan when you're going out to eat, going to potlucks, and traveling. Alrighty, let's go chat with Janie.
Hey, and welcome back to the Food as Medicine show. This is Ann, and today I have a very special guest. Her name is Janie Schumann, and she is a professional health coach and biofeedback specialist in the Northwest Arkansas area. And she became a health coach because of her own health issues when she was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And Janie was able to find her underlying stressors, take action, and correct them. And she now lives an active, healthy, and pain-free lifestyle. And she's coached hundreds of clients back to their full potential using natural alternatives and food as medicine. Janie works with groups or individuals who are interested in making positive lifestyle changes, and she specializes in pain management, digestion, and autoimmune issues. Welcome, Janie, to the show.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Yes, thank you for taking the time to join us. And I'd love for you to start off by sharing your story and how you came back from recovery from rheumatoid arthritis.
Thank you. I'd love to. When I was about 50 years old, everything just seemed to kind of go south on me. I was seemed to be allergic to all foods. I had depression for the first time in my life. I was tired all the time. I had tingling and numbing in my limbs and my feet and pain in my joints, and I really didn't understand what was going on. It just kind of seemed to hit all at once. I finally went to the doctor, and I was diagnosed through a blood test with rheumatoid arthritis. Not really knowing what that was about, I started some research. I did start taking the medication that was given to me, which was steroids. And after being on those, I knew that that was not the way that I wanted to go. I wanted to find what was actually causing these symptoms, and I wanted to be proactive and do something about it, but I wasn't quite sure how to go about that. I had been in the health field and was at a health fair, and while there, I was reintroduced to a biofeedback device that I now own and work with, and saw that it navigated the underlying stresses in people. What was the underlying stress? And it was an electrical reading of different items. There were 10,000 items that are tested in the biofeedback device, and it tests the stress of. And several things came up for me. I decided that once I had a session on that, I decided that I was going to buy a biofeedback device strictly for my own wellness, to bring myself back to health, because I felt like that was going to help me immensely. I was very awestruck by how sensitive the biofeedback device was at readings, the electrical response of humans. So I bought one. It was all about me. I had no plans to have a practice at all, and worked 3 months, found out my underlying stresses were, and I had been, were gluten. I had had a few years before, I had a celiac test, and that came back negative, so I didn't even think about that anymore. My biofeedback device told me I was gluten intolerant, dairy intolerant, I had heavy metal toxicity, and I had parasites. So that was a lot to deal with all at once, and it was actually just a process. I first got the mercury fillings out of my mouth and was able to start there. I started reducing my gluten intake little by little, but at first it was challenging, and 10 years ago it was a little bit, there wasn't quite as much available out there for gluten-sensitive people like us. And I did a cleanse. I got rid of the parasites. And I had been drinking milk my whole life and eating gluten my whole life. And I thought, how can I be allergic to this? But I knew if I took it out of my diet for 2 weeks, I would see if it was going to help or not. I did. And within a week to 10 days, I was feeling so much better. I was amazed at the brain fog that went away, the energy level I had was starting to come back, and I was thrilled. So I decided then to change my lifestyle and start eating a gluten-free diet, giving up dairy, and started on my road to recovery. It was remarkable when I started just changing diet, what showed up, and I was so amazed.
Yeah, I that's something I see commonly is gluten and dairy. People are not aware that they are allergic to it, and then once they remove it, they feel so much better, like you mentioned. Aside from those two types of foods, were there any other foods that you found if you removed them, it helped your symptoms?
Not really. Those were the main two stressors in my body. And once again, it was like, well, I've been drinking milk my whole life and eating dairy. This can't be affecting me. Of course, I always had a Kleenex and mucus, a lot of mucus buildup, and never connected the dots with that. Had respiratory issues, lots, never connect the dots with that. And once I gave up the dairy, all those symptoms went away. I didn't have the mucus. I didn't have to blow my nose all the time. I didn't get any more respiratory problems, and my lungs just tended to clear out. So my body was just so used to those substances, I couldn't even tell until I stopped for 2 weeks. And then, of course, I cheated like we all do. And within 24 hours, I realized, oh, this is really a factor. And once I put the toxin, the dairy, and the gluten back in my system, I realized this is poison to me. I can't do this anymore. So I started changing my lifestyle. I had a friend who was a hairdresser at the time. I lived in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, who had fibromyalgia. She came to see me. She saw a remarkable change in me, and she was hoping I might be able to help her. I was able to see her stresses and kind of give her a roadmap of that might help her. And within a few weeks, she started feeling much better too. She started sending her hair clients to me who had issues, and that started my biofeedback wellness health coach business. It has been a lovely road, and I've met such lovely people, and I've just been thrilled to be able to help people come back to their wellness and their full potential. And I really bless this disease that had shown up in my life, because without that, I couldn't have helped all these people.
Now, people sometimes say when they take dairy specifically, but also gluten out of their diet, that they miss it. So what are some things that you eat to kind of substitute for the dairy and the gluten so that you don't feel like you're depriving yourself?
I do use alternative grains, almond flour, and there's a lot of gluten-free products out there. I still try to stay away from a lot of carbs because I feel like it's not the best food for me in general. But when I first started, I would use gluten-free products. They're few and far between at that time. And now I'm a gluten-free consultant, and I help people go through the grocery stores to see what products are good. For dairy, I use almond milk or coconut milk, and I use alternatives to those types of milk. And it seems to be just fine and satisfying for me.
So I guess one big thing that people miss is cheese, right? So what are some substitutes for cheese that you can suggest?
What I have found, being gluten intolerant, and a lot of my clients were able to eat other types of cheese, like goat cheese and sheep cheese. Most people are not allergic to those types of cheese. So those are the cheeses I use for alternatives.
Okay. And then you mentioned for gluten there were different alternative grains. What are some of your favorites?
My favorite is almond flour. I use almond flour a lot. It's just really ground up almonds, and of course it's great brain food. And there's many different flours. There's rice, there's tapioca, there's potato starch. When I need to thicken something, I'll use potato starch. When I want to make a cream soup or gravy, there's lots of different alternatives in grains to be able to be used and substitute and cook and bake with. I'm an excellent chef. I do a lot of that entertaining, and everything I make is gluten-free.
You have to invite me over sometime.
I would love to.
Great. So then, are you a fan of, say, like amaranth and quinoa and some of those alternative grains?
Quinoa is my go-to. When I was in Peru, I came upon quinoa, and I think it's a wonderful, actually, it's not really a grain, it's a seed. And I use wild rice, once again, not a grain, it's a grass. And those are my two go-for starches. I will use quinoa in the morning, even like a porridge instead of oats, and we'll just put some raisins and some almond milk and a little sweetener, and it's almost like a little porridge.
Ooh, that sounds yummy.
It's delicious.
So some people, right, I find they may do well with oats and some do not. So do you find that you're a person who does not do well with oats?
I do not do well with oats.
Yeah.
Correct. I think a lot of the oats are processed in wheat facilities, so there could be cross-contamination. And I know there is a big, debate whether if people who are gluten intolerant should eat it. I just try to stay away from it. I find that there's many other foods out there. When my clients come to me and I find out that they're gluten intolerant, it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to eat? And I go, well, you can eat any vegetable that you want. You can eat any meat or fish that you want. And the fats of avocados and nuts and seeds are fabulous, and then give them the carbs that are beneficial for them to eat. And most of the time at first they say, oh, this will be simple. And when they come back to see me a second time, they didn't really realize how much of their diet was totally gluten or carbs, right, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner until they tried to take it away.
Yeah. So then, as far as the diet goes, you know, when they find that so much of it is in their diet, what are some of the tips or strategies that you help them with to support them in that transition to being gluten-free or dairy-free?
Well, because I'm a great cook, I give them lots of different recipes and set up different recipes for them for breakfast, such as, you know, of course, you can go out, and eating out is always an issue for people. And but breakfast, eggs, potatoes, meat, a smoothie, some coconut yogurt. And one thing I do a lot of is when I cook in the evening, I usually have a piece of fish or meat. I usually have some left over, and I eat that in the morning for breakfast, because eating protein in the morning seems to hold me for hours. I don't have a blood sugar drop. And so I tend to eat protein in the morning. And for lunch, once again, you know, roll-ups or sandwiches. You know, there's wonderful gluten-free bread out there. Any meat and vegetables. We have so much available. It's basically just getting people to shift to a basic, healthy lifestyle again.
Did you find that you dropped some weight when you changed to a gluten-free, dairy-free diet?
I absolutely did. And my bloating went down in my stomach, and my digestion got much better, and it was remarkable, the changes, just by eliminating those things.
What a nice side effect, huh?
Very nice side effect. Yes. Losing weight and feeling better.
Not like some of the side effects of the drugs that are on the market right now. But so I guess I had another question going back to the biofeedback machine that helps you discover these food intolerances. How does it work exactly? And is it pretty accurate in determining all these factors that you need to improve for your health?
I have found it so incredibly accurate. A client comes, and it's an easy 5 straps that I hook up to the client. It's connected to the biofeedback device and the medical computer software program that I work with. And I run a test on them. It's an electrical response, the body being electric, and this is an electronic response. And all these substances, being it corn or gluten or enzymes or vitamins that are programmed into the system, have been reduced to a wavelength or a frequency, which is just oscillations per second. So it's showing where the stress is in the body. It's showing the stress in the body is having a stress by this item. So if there's a stress that comes up with vitamin C, say on a client, I might say to them, "Oh, are you taking a lot of vitamin C?" And they might say, "Oh, yes, I'm taking a lot right now because I have a cold." And so that's a stress I really don't have to worry about, vitamin C being water soluble. But if I saw stress come up high on gluten or corn or even rice, I mean, people have all sorts of food allergies. And when I go to the allergy program in the biofeedback device, I'm able to detect their stress in food. And that was very insightful. It's very accurate. I've worked with close to 1,000 clients and thousands of sessions, and I must say, over 90% of the people who follow the roadmap, once we find out what the stresses are, end up healing themselves. They little by little wean themselves off their medication. I, of course, don't tell them that is up to them and between them and their medical doctor. But using food as medicine, as we know, tends to really make a big difference in people's lives.
Yeah, totally. So when you say you meet with the person and you use this machine to identify their health issues, how long would you say you're working with them before they start to see some changes and some results in their life?
If it's a gluten intolerance, and I must say, I'd like to just tell a little bit more of a story of this too, about when I first started as a biofeedback therapist, people would come in my office and maybe 25% of the people had a gluten stress with their biofeedback reading. Now, at least 95% of the people who walk through my door to my practice have a gluten intolerance. It's mostly a sensitivity, not a celiac response. And I have talked to different doctors and, knowing that the gluten has been increased in the grain of wheat from 3% to 33% was the last I heard, that I think has made a huge difference in everyone's diet. Of course, now the people who walk through my door aren't coming here. They're not well. They're wanting to figure out an issue. So that's a high percentage for my practice, although everybody who's coming through here doesn't feel well. And how long does it take them to feel better? Within a week to 2 weeks, if they follow the roadmap that we've gone by and that I've written out and given to them, they feel incredible they definitely feel the difference within 7 to 10 days, just with the diet change. And then coming back and getting regular biofeedback sessions can help on the stress level of their body in general too. So I like to use them both together, although I work with people remotely all over the United States, just coaching people with their diet.
So when they come back for regular biofeedback sessions, are you monitoring the progress of, how their sensitivities are doing, or what do those additional sessions tell you?
I'm able to see the stress level. I'm able to see what the stress level is today in the body. And yes, I do see them go away, but usually the gluten response takes at least 3 weeks minimum for the stress response of the gluten to go away. Lots of times people will go on a cleanse to cleanse the colon at the same time, and it just kind of helps clean all that out. But I'm able to see through the biofeedback device the stress response go down or dissipate and go away completely. And, of course, I know that just by hearing what the client says, but it also shows up. And then, once again, there might be some underlying other causes. It's kind of like peeling back the onion skin. Other issues will show up that have been in the background. So we go to the next level.
So, I don't love this term, but I guess when a train wreck client comes to your doors and you start with them, you help them with removing gluten from their diet to all the other toxicities that might be happening. How long is it before they fully recover and everything on the biofeedback results shows up clear and that they're healthy? How long of a journey is that typically? About 6 months.
Wow. It's not very long if the client does their work. It's real. The body is so remarkable at healing itself.
That's fantastic.
We take stresses away.
Well, and then how often are you meeting with these clients?
Usually in the beginning, I'm usually working with them weekly for biofeedback sessions and coaching sessions, either or both.
And then I'm assuming the time frame gets extended once they start feeling better and need less support and coaching?
Absolutely. I am not really here to keep my biofeedback clients tied to me forever. I'm really into self-empowerment and letting everybody be in control, and healing themselves and connecting the dots for them so they can do that. I've had clients all these years. I'll work with someone very actively for 6 months, and then I might not see them for a few years, and they'll call me back later and go, you probably don't remember me, but I need your assistance again. So they'll come back for something else that might be bothering them, and I hook them up to the biofeedback device, and we start that process and see what's going on.
Going back to the gluten-free living, right? One question that's still kind of lingering for me is, when someone goes out to eat, that's often a challenge because you don't know what's in the food. So how do you advise people when they go out to eat how to eat gluten-free?
That can be quite a challenge, and sometimes we go out to eat and then we have response and wonder why. Today, there are so many gluten-free menus at restaurants. I find that the big corporate restaurants like P.F. Chang's and have gluten-free menus, and Outback. So you can go, when you walk in a restaurant, first thing, ask for a gluten-free menu. The restaurants they're getting pretty savvy because there's so many of us out there that they really want to be a part of this. And that's another thing I do. I work with restaurants writing gluten-free menus for their restaurants. That is something I do, at which I will go in a kitchen at a restaurant and go through every product and look and see what we can use and not use. And if I know I'm going to a really fabulous hamburger place, I will take my gluten-free hamburger bun. I set myself up to succeed. So I take my bun in and I say, here, will you use my bun? Or I can have any sandwich with no bread. I can have salads with no croutons. Dressings you always have to be a little careful of because even mayonnaise has a binder and has wheat in it. So as I try to get as plain as items as possible, and it seems to work most of the time.
Do they look at you funny when you bring in your own bun?
Not at all. People are getting used to that. And, when it comes to events and parties that I go to, and especially over the holidays, there's a lot of different people will bring things, and there's potluck. And I will always take my gluten-free crackers to a gathering because I know there's lots of dips that I might be able to eat, but there's never anything I can dip it with. And then I'll always bring a dessert because then I know I can eat a dessert and a gluten-free dessert. And I have, over the years, my friends have really opened up and tend to make things gluten-free. And they realize that it's almost just as easy to do that as not.
That's awesome. It's great when you have a supportive network. And I know when I was training for my bodybuilding competition, I would do the same thing. Sometimes I would eat beforehand before going to a potluck just in case there were things I wasn't sure if I could eat that were completely clean. Or, I would bring my own food, to munch on. So then I know what I'm eating. So I think that's a great suggestion.
When I travel, I do take food with me. I went to Aruba a couple weeks ago, and in my carry-on bag, I had a bag of bagels and I had a loaf of bread, and just so I could have something available if I needed to while I was out of the country. Lo and behold, when I went to one of their grocery stores, there was gluten-free products there. So it's really getting to be globally that this is being put out there. I think our food has changed so much the way it's produced, and this is just not a problem here in the United States.
Yeah. So I'm interested. I didn't know that you went to restaurants and helped them design menus. So if someone was going to a restaurant, right, and they were looking at the menu, and maybe the restaurant doesn't have a specific gluten-free menu for you, how would a person know which items to look for to avoid?
Anything that probably has a covering on it, that has a flavoring on it, anything with a gravy or a sauce, those things can usually be taken off. And so you can always order a piece of fish or meat and sauteed vegetables, or a salad and get an oil and vinegar dressing. Or you could get a sandwich and just have them leave off the bread. I will do that sometimes, and then ask them to bring me lettuce, and I'll use that for my bread or holding it together. And everyone has been, I have found that the restaurants and the staff are very open and helpful overall.
Well, that's good to hear. I think sometimes people worry that if they make these special requests, people are going to not honor them or maybe look at them weird or, whatever. So I think it's great to hear from your experience that hasn't been the case.
It has not. I set myself up to succeed, and I will take items. I've even taken my bread when I was going to go out to breakfast one time and ask them to toast it. Because I'm not celiac, I can do that. Being sensitive, I can get away with being in the same vicinity as gluten and it really not hurting me and seeing a response to it.
Yeah, so minor exposure to gluten, maybe gluten in the same toaster won't affect you, but if you actually ingested, maybe a slice or two, then the dose is large enough to cause a response then. Right. That makes sense. So, you talked about kind of setting yourself up for success. What are some other tips or strategies that are great that you offer for your clients, for traveling or just everyday living?
When I travel, I definitely always have an ice chest. I have my crackers, my bread, and some snacks that I love that are gluten-free that I have with me. And then I'm always safe wherever I am. I just always plan ahead for my meals. And I really love my cooking, so I really like to cook. And I eat at home a lot also because I know it's healthier for me. But I do, when I go out and I'm traveling, I set myself up to have my items with me, just in case they might not be available. It makes such a difference.
Yeah. That's, it's so funny because the way you describe, how you go about your day or when you travel, that's what I did when I was training for my bodybuilding competition. I carried a little cooler with me all the time as well. And a little chicken breast in there, veggie snacks, hummus, that kind of thing. So it's always, that saying comes back to me. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail, kind of thing. So every day knowing what you're going to eat, what does your day look like and how do you plan for that day? I guess the last thing is, how do you empower a person to take charge and to be, to feel confident in their ability to live this way as a lifestyle now?
Once people remove the item that's bothering them from their daily life and they start feeling better, they want to change. And then the strategies that I give them are, when you go to a gathering, take your food items that work for you. Or if you can't eat anything there, eat before you go. If you're traveling, take the things you need with you. Set yourself up prior to. And I am a big component of a really, 30-minute meals, very quick and easy. So I give my clients very simple recipes. ideas for eating that makes it simple for them, because everybody's in a time crunch these days, so they can feel fulfilled in their eating. So I help them with their recipes also. That's another thing that I do for my clients, because they just they're a deer struck in the headlights. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And it's like, oh yeah, you can. And letting them know it's easy instead of hard. I think it's just state of mind, and a belief is just something we keep thinking over and over again. And once I just let them know that this is really easy, and once they get it in their mind, they keep hearing how easy it is, they start feeling it's easy, and they start operating that way.
Love it, love it. So, Janie, one thing that popped up for me while you were talking was, you mentioned you bring your crackers and your bread with you. So what are some of your favorite brands that your go-to brands for these occasions?
I love Udi's for bread, and I like Rudy's for bread.
What was that?
Rudy's, Rudy's. Okay. It has a gluten-free bread, and it's very good. Both those breads have a very different texture, so I use one bread maybe for sandwiches and one bread for maybe French toast. And then there is another brand out there that I buy their products. It's called Schar, S-C-H-A-R. It has the 2 dots over the A. It's a German product. And their pasta is very good. And I like a lot of some of their bread products. Their long loaf bread, like a French loaf bread, is very good. I use that bread a lot for hors d'oeuvres when I'm making things, and make little toast crostinis out of the Schar bread. And so those are 3 companies that I like their stuff. I also, when I'm just doing a quick dessert, there are some mixes that I find that are very good, and that's Namaste. It's a gluten-free product that they have cake mixes and brownie mixes. Is another company that I absolutely love. They have a great pancake baking mix product, and I have made these pancakes for so many people, and no one ever knows that they're not gluten-free. I mean, no one ever knows they're gluten-free. So that's my kind of, it's like, if it tastes like gluten, it's good, and if the texture's right. Because I spent hundreds of dollars in the beginning throwing out food and eating stuff that was just terrible. And so I also take people on shopping trips or give them a list of companies and products that I think are good.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a friend who swears by Pamela's. You know, I haven't tried the pancakes, but it seems coming up that everyone loves their pancake mix, so I might have to give it a try. But I've had their brownie mix, and it's wonderful.
Yes. So those are my favorite ones, and those are, my go-to. And, also what I tell my clients, I mean, no one really has cookbooks anymore. And anytime I want to make something and I just want to change it to gluten-free, I go into a search engine and type in gluten-free lasagna or gluten-free red velvet cake or gluten-free whatever. And it comes up. There's so many recipes out there these days, and it's just really easy to change it out.
That's my favorite answer. Just Google it, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny. Every time I ask my brother a technical question, I'm like, how do you do this on the computer? He's like, just go to Google and type in your question. So I learned not to ask him anymore until I Googled, and I still can't find the answer. But so Janie, thank you for all those wonderful tips. And I'd love it if you could just wrap up and, maybe what are some of your best tips or the number one thing if someone was to want to change their lifestyle or to improve their health that they need to do today that will make the biggest impact on their life?
Well, the first thing I'd probably say is hydration. That is something I see in people. Over half the people that walk through my door are dehydrated. And hydration, I would say, if people just drink at least 2 quarts of water a day, they would probably see a lot of things change right away in their life. So that would be one thing. And I would also recommend giving up gluten for just 2 weeks. And that would also mean giving up beer, whiskey, or scotch as far as the liquor goes, because those tend to have gluten in them too. People are able to drink wine or potato vodka and give up all gluten, and I think most people would see an improvement in their lives, be it with brain function, with focus, with pain and neuropathy. They might see that ceasing. They'll definitely, I would think they might see more energy. There's so many aspects that the body could change just removing gluten. So those would be my two recommendations. It would be hydration, number 1, and gluten, number 2.
Awesome. So, and then just to clarify, you said wine and potato vodka is okay, right?
Correct.
So, those people who enjoy their beer, whiskey, and scotch can switch, and they can still have their liquor or their alcohol in the evening, huh?
They can, and there are gluten-free beers out there also that are made from sorghum instead of barley, and so there are gluten-free beers also. But I know that those things are safe, the wine and the potato vodka.
That makes me happy. I'm a wine drinker, so.
All right.
Well, thank you, Janie, so much for all of your information. It's obvious that you're very passionate about it and you're very knowledgeable about it as well. So if someone who's listening to this wants to get in touch with you for more information or maybe get some coaching sessions, where do they find you?
They would find me, they could email me, and I think you'll put my email up, or if you'd like me to state it, I can do that, or they can call me.
Yep.
Either or.
If you can state it, and then I'll also link it up on the website as well.
All right. My email address is JSchumann@cox.net, N-E-T. So once again, that's JSchumann3@cox.net. And that's 2 N's in Schumann. And my phone number where I can be reached is 479-200-1048.
Fantastic. Again, I will link those up on the website in case you didn't catch it. But thank you, Janie, so much for all your time and your expertise and sharing so willingly. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ann. I appreciate being with you today.
Hey, so I hope you enjoyed the show. That was Janie Schumann, who is a professional health coach and biofeedback specialist in the Northwest Arkansas area. All the links and resources mentioned today are in the show notes at drann.com/003, and Ann is spelled A-N-H as in hiccup. While you're there, remember to jump on the Food as Medicine VIP email list. You'll get my free gift, The Clean Eating Rules. It's my #1 guide for how to eat to lose weight, improve your biometrics, and get more energy. You'll also get my favorite pearls from the show, because if you're anything like me, you're probably listening to this while you're driving, you're doing your laundry, walking the dog, at the gym, and you really can't be jotting down notes of all the great information that's shared in this episode. So I've taken the notes for you, and by hopping on my email list, you'll get the show pearls. Finally, as a VIP email subscriber, you'll get the occasional love letters from me, which are emails sharing some of my favorite recipes and products, upcoming events, new information that I've learned, and other goodies. So go to drann.com now and enter your name and email address. If you like this interview, be sure to subscribe to the show so you get all the new episodes. We've got plenty of great guests coming up, so stay tuned. Thanks so much for stopping by, and until next time, remember to eat consciously because the world needs a healthy and vibrant you.
If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends because we need more people to hear the food as medicine message. And make sure to head over to drann.com and sign up for free updates because I share some insights in my email updates that I don't share anywhere else. And before you go, don't forget to leave a comment because I absolutely love hearing from you.